And we're back. Well, it's going to dominate headlines in the markets and politics for weeks to come. The US-Israeli strikes on Iran. In the wake of the war on Iran, President Cyril Ramaphosa calling for dialogue in the Middle East and condemning international law violations. In the meantime, our BRICS partners, that's Russia and China, have condemned the attacks. South Africa's strained relations, of course, with the US, which were ignited by the ICJ genocide case against Israel, does put us in a rather precarious position. Parliamentary correspondent for Business Day, Roos, joins us with her analysis on the different responses and what it could mean for South Africa as tensions escalate. Hi, Tara. Good to chat to you once again. All right, it happened. We were talking about it. It happened on Saturday. They attacked. They effectively killed the leader, the Ayatollah. That happened as well. Our president has reacted to this, but we are, like I said, they're in a very precarious position because we've been supporting Iran. So where does this leave us?
Absolutely. So Ramaphosa put out a very restrained statement, and he spoke about adherence to the UN Charter. He spoke about Article 51 and the right to self-defense. But when we contrast this, and many critics of President Ramaphosa and of South Africa's international relations stance as a whole have brought out, when there was a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, South Africa had taken a position of non-alignment, and we had not condemned any actions of Russia, and there was a very different diplomatic approach. As we know, there have been increasing tensions with Iran coming from Israel and the United States. This is going to largely affect the cost of coal and the cost of oil, with tensions arising in the Middle East. And we see a very difficult dynamic now arising for the GNU at large. As we know, international relations is the number one topic in which the Democratic Alliance and the African National Congress cannot seem to find common ground. The DA has not yet put out a statement giving their response to the situation, but we can assume that it will be in contradiction to what the ANC is putting out, given the fact that they are not aligned on the international relations stance of South Africa. Where South Africa goes from here, this really depends on what the escalations between Israel and the United States and Russia are. If, and this is something that I think remains very unlikely, South Africa gets thrown into a position where we go into World War III, as many people are calling it, I think that it's very unlikely that we are going to be deploying the SANDF troops anywhere anytime soon. But it does place an interesting question on the table for South Africa, who historically takes a position of non-alignment, and we are always in support of international law. When we look at these direct contradictions coming from the situation now in Iran, when we look at the contradictions in Gaza, and when we look at the contradictions in Ukraine, it really places the question, where does South Africa actually stand when it comes to international relations?
Yeah. See, this is the thing. I was looking at a statement by Vladimir Putin, who says there's a lot of Russians living in Israel. He's not going to condemn this. He's stepping out of this now. So I think, perhaps South Africa needs to be very careful about its next step.
Absolutely. And when we look at the interpretation of self-defense in President Ramaphosa's statement, he stressed that Article 51 applies strictly to the response of an armed attack, almost coming to the defense of Iran. And he said that you cannot justify anticipatory force. Many critics argue that if this was applied consistently, the standard should have also been applied to South Africa, who was more directly implicated because of our alignment with BRICS when it came to Russia. And when we look at this justification and the narratives that is coming out of Pretoria, there are many, many, many inconsistencies. Critics are again pointing to that we take Israel to the ICJ, we condemn Israel, but South Africa still exports coal to Israel. We are actually Israel's largest coal supplier. And so it is very difficult for the president to come out and put forward a statement to say we as South Africans need to take this diplomatic approach when our diplomatic stance is extremely inconsistent.
Sure. An interesting few weeks coming up, Tara. Thank you so much. Good to have you with us on Business Lunch. That was Tara Roos, parliamentary correspondent for Business Day.